Every man fears it, but few admit it. Waking up one day and realizing another man has your girlfriend's attention, her loyalty, maybe even her body. And here's the worst part. It's usually not who you think. It's not some flashy, charming stranger. It's the men already woven into her daily life. They look harmless, but they hold the keys to her emotions. And once she gives those away, the rest follows. If you're not careful, you'll lose more than love. You'll lose respect, you'll lose face, and you'll lose control. In this video, I'll expose the 5 types of men who can easily cross the line with your woman, and the blueprint to make sure you stay in charge of your relationship. Number 1. The gym guy. Let's start with the man you probably thought was harmless, the gym guy. And I'm not talking about some random dude lifting weights on the other side of the room. I'm talking about the personal trainer, the coach, the man who spends hours every week with your girlfriend while you're not there. You think it's just about squats and treadmills. I'm telling you, it's a breeding ground for blurred boundaries. Here's why. The gym environment is intimate, sweaty, high energy, bodies moving, skin showing. It's not a boardroom, it's not a family barbecue. It's a place where physical proximity is normal and even necessary. A trainer adjusts her form, places his hand on her shoulder, her waist, her legs, all under the excuse of fitness. That touch, repeated week after week, builds something you can't see until it's too late. Add in the clothing, leggings, sports bras, tank tops. Your girlfriend is at her most physically expressive in that space. And the trainer? He's literally paid to make her feel good about her body. Compliments roll off his tongue as part of the job. You think she doesn't soak that up? Think again. Now, let me tell you a story. John's 50, a retired firefighter. At first, he was actually proud that his younger girlfriend had gotten serious about fitness. She was glowing, talking non-stop about her workouts and posting pictures from the gym. But slowly, John noticed a shift. She started dressing sharper just to go train. Sessions stretched longer and longer, sometimes late into the evening. When John joked, "You spend more time with your trainer than with me," she brushed it off, laughed, and said he was overthinking. But then came the moment that stung. She called her trainer when her car broke down, before she called John. That's when he realized the boundary wasn't just blurred, it was gone. Here's the cold truth. Blind trust in that environment is like leaving your house door wide open in the middle of the night. Most guys think they're being secure by not worrying. What they're really being is careless. Women are emotional creatures, and when you combine physical touch, admiration, and consistency, bonds form, sometimes faster than you can imagine. And once that emotional spark catches, it's not about push-ups anymore. It's about loyalty shifting away from you. Now, I'm not telling you to go all paranoid drill sergeant. That will backfire. If you try to control every move she makes, you'll look insecure and suffocating. But you do need a strategy. Here's what actually works. First, if fitness is important to her, get involved. Go to the gym together. Or even better, create your own workout space at home. Show her that physical energy can exist inside your relationship, not outside of it. Second, pay attention to the little shifts. How much time is she spending there? Does her schedule suddenly revolve around gym hours? Is she dressing differently, more styled up, not just sweaty casual? Does her post-workout energy seem directed toward you or away from you? These are signals. If you ignore them, you're playing yourself. Third, talk to her directly, but not with accusation. Say what you observe, ask questions, listen carefully. The goal is not to control her. It's to set boundaries and remind her that intimacy, both physical and emotional, belongs in your relationship, not with a hired trainer. The gym guy is dangerous, not because he's some superhuman alpha, but because his role gives him access. Access to her body, her mind, her emotions. If you pretend that doesn't matter, you've already lost the battle. Protecting your relationship starts with awareness. Don't leave that door wide open. Number 2, the bartender or DJ. If the gym guy is the slow burn, the bartender or the DJ is the lightning strike. These men thrive in environments where inhibitions are already lowered. Clubs, bars, nightlife. They're not just about music or drinks. They're about energy, attention, and atmosphere. And the men who work there? They've mastered the art of making women feel seen, alive, and desired in the moment. Think about it. A bartender isn't just pouring drinks. He's a performer. He remembers her favorite cocktail. He gives her that extra smile across the bar. He listens when she leans in over the music. And the DJ? He's the guy commanding the entire room. His presence is magnetic. His hands literally control the beat that makes everyone move. Combine alcohol, flashing lights, and social excitement, and you've got a recipe for instant chemistry. Not real intimacy, just the kind of adrenaline-driven attraction that makes women feel like they're in a movie scene. And here's the catch. That temporary high often fills the emotional gaps she's secretly feeling with you. Here's what it looks like in real life. Robert learned this the hard way. He's 55, a warehouse manager. His younger girlfriend loved going out with her friends, and at first, he didn't think much of it. She'd come home excited, laughing about the music, the lights, the atmosphere. Then a name kept slipping into the conversation: the DJ. At first, it sounded innocent, just part of the nightlife. But soon, Robert noticed she'd linger after shows, waiting around while her friends were ready to leave. She started getting home later with vague excuses about helping clean up or just talking with people. When Robert teased her about it, she rolled her eyes and told him he was being paranoid. The turning point came one night when he glanced at her phone and saw late-night messages from the DJ, short, playful, with just enough intimacy to make his stomach drop. That's when Robert realized this wasn't just about music anymore. Here's the brutal truth. When nightlife becomes a staple of her life and you're not part of it, you're not just missing out, you're being replaced. These men, bartenders, DJs, they represent freedom, fun, rebellion. They embody the opposite of the stable, dependable guy you've worked decades to become. And guess what? That contrast can feel intoxicating to a younger woman, especially when she's craving an outlet. Now, before you panic, let's get clear. The answer isn't chaining her to the couch and banning her from bars. That only makes you look insecure and controlling. What you need is strategy. Step 1. Know the environments she's entering. If she's out every weekend in the nightlife scene, you can't afford to be clueless. Ask questions. Be curious, not suspicious. Step 2. Talk boundaries. That means being upfront about what respect looks like in your relationship. Is staying until sunrise at the DJ booth really okay? Is messaging back and forth with a bartender part of just having fun? Probably not. Spell it out, because if you don't, the lines will blur on their own. Step 3. Build alternatives. Create fun that doesn't require a bar. Plan adventures, laughter, shared experiences that outshine the shallow thrill of nightlife. If she sees excitement with you, she won't need to seek it somewhere else. The bartender or DJ isn't dangerous because he's better than you. He's dangerous because he thrives in the one arena where you're absent. If you stay absent too long, don't be surprised when her attention follows the beat of someone else's music. Number 3. The wealthy businessman or corporate executive. Now let's talk about the man who doesn't need charm or nightlife to pull your woman in. He uses something even more powerful: status, money, and authority. The wealthy businessman, the corporate executive, the CEO who walks into the room and makes everyone else feel 2 inches shorter. For a younger woman, being close to that energy can feel like stepping into another world. And if you're not careful, she can get lost in it. Here's the psychology. Power is intoxicating. It's not just about the paycheck. It's about influence, presence, and the way other people treat him. A man who signs checks, commands rooms, or owns companies has an automatic aura. He doesn't need to flirt directly. The mere fact that he can provide access to experiences, connections, or even small luxuries creates attraction. Women are naturally drawn to security and opportunity. When she's exposed to his world, Private dinners, networking events, just business trips. That attraction doesn't feel like cheating. It feels like upgrading. Take David, for example. He's 52 and he runs a small auto repair shop. His younger girlfriend worked as an assistant for a wealthy CEO. At first, David didn't worry. She often talked about the job being demanding, the long hours, the pressure. But then he started noticing little things. She began showing up with expensive gifts, and when David asked, she'd casually say, "Oh, it's just a token from work." She started dressing more sharply, almost like she was preparing for a photo shoot instead of the office. David tried to brush it off, telling himself it was just part of corporate culture. But what gnawed at him was how she spoke about her boss, always with a kind of admiration, almost defending him when David joked about rich guys buying attention. She laughed it off, but her tone carried something else. The final straw came when she missed their anniversary dinner because she was at a late work event. That's when David knew the line between professional respect and personal entanglement wasn't just blurred, it was crossing fast. Here's the reality you need to face. When attention, gifts, and time from another man cross the boundary of just business, your relationship is already on shaky ground. The wealthy businessman doesn't have to compete with you head-on. He simply provides a contrast. While you're steady, he's extravagant. While you're grounded, he's aspirational. And women, especially younger women, can get caught in that comparison game without even realizing it. So what's the strategy? First, transparency. If she's receiving gifts or invitations that feel beyond professional, you need to talk about it. Not with accusations, but with clarity. Help me understand why your boss is buying you a personal gift. That doesn't sound like work to me. Second, watch her behavior. Is she suddenly dressing sharper, speaking with more polish, or spending extra energy on work events that seem suspiciously social? Those aren't just career shifts. They're signs of shifting loyalty. Third, set boundaries around what's acceptable in a professional relationship. Private dinners? Probably not. Weekend trips with a boss? Absolutely not. It's not about being controlling. It's about protecting the relationship from blurred lines. And finally, never forget this truth. You can't outspend or outstatus a corporate executive. Don't even try. Competing in his arena is a losing game. But what you can do is reinforce what money can't buy: loyalty, depth, authenticity. Be the man who grounds her, who keeps her tethered to reality when the shiny lights of power try to sweep her away. A CEO can buy her gifts. You can be the man she actually trusts with her soul. That's a currency no amount of wealth can counterfeit. Number 4, the male bestie, emotional supporter. If the gym guy touches her body and the CEO dazzles her with status, then the male best friend is the one who invades the most dangerous territory, her emotions. This is the man who knows her secrets, hears her frustrations, and becomes the shoulder she leans on when things with you feel heavy. And make no mistake, emotional intimacy is often the first step toward physical betrayal. By the time you notice it, the groundwork has already been laid. Here's the psychology. Women crave emotional connection more than anything else. It's not always about looks, muscles, or bank accounts. It's about who listens, who understands, who makes her feel safe sharing the unfiltered truth. And when she invests that energy into another man, whether he's labeled as just a friend or like a brother, she's slowly moving her loyalty away from you. Emotional loyalty is the backbone of a relationship. Once that transfers, the body usually follows. For Mark, it was a brutal lesson. He's 45, an IT technician. His girlfriend always had a male best friend, someone she swore was like a brother. At first, Mark tolerated it. After all, the guy had been around before he even came into the picture. They'd grab coffee, text often, and she'd laugh at his jokes in a way that made Mark uneasy. But every time he raised it, she shot back, "Don't be insecure, he's just a friend." Things shifted after one of their arguments. Instead of cooling off with Mark, She disappeared for the night and later admitted she'd stayed at her bestie's place because he listens without judging. That cut deep. Mark tried to brush it aside, but he couldn't shake the feeling that she was leaning on another man for the kind of emotional support he thought was reserved for him. The problem wasn't just one night. It was the creeping realization that piece by piece, her emotional energy was being invested somewhere else. Here's the ugly truth. Emotional cheating often feels innocent to women. They tell themselves, "I'm just venting. He understands me." But every time she unloads her frustrations on him instead of you, she's strengthening his role as her confidant. And here's the kicker. A man who's sitting there listening to her heartaches is almost always waiting for the chance to cross the line. He might play the patient, caring friend, but deep down, he knows vulnerability opens doors. The male bestie role is the slowest but deadliest threat. So what's your move? First, don't fall into the trap of outright banning her from having male friends. That will only backfire, making you look controlling and insecure. Instead, ask the right questions. Why does she need him so much? Why does she run to him when things go wrong instead of coming to you? If her answers are vague or defensive, that's a red flag. Second, discuss his role openly, not in an accusatory way, but in a boundary-setting way. I want to understand why you trust him with your problems more than me. That doesn't feel like partnership. Third, watch for transparency. Does she keep her interactions with him in the open? Or is she hiding texts, deleting messages, keeping plans quiet? If it's the latter, then she knows she's already crossing lines. And here's the part you need to hear. You can't compete with the male bestie by out-talking him. Your job isn't to become her therapist. It's to re-establish your place as her emotional anchor. That means creating an environment where she feels safe bringing her raw self to you, not outsourcing that intimacy to someone else. A woman who leans on another man for emotional safety is already halfway out the door. If you ignore it, don't be surprised when one night just talking turns into something irreversible. The male bestie is not harmless. He's not just a friend. He's the emotional parasite that thrives when you're not paying attention. And if you don't cut that reliance off at the root, you're going to wake up one day realizing you weren't just competing with another man. You were competing with her own need to be understood. And that's a battle you never want to lose. Number 5, the male therapist or counselor. Now we arrive at the man society tells you to trust, the one with the framed degree, the professional tone, the office with soft lighting and tissues on the table. The male therapist or counselor. On the surface, he's there to help. But beneath that professional role lies the most overlooked risk in your relationship. Because if your woman is pouring her rawest emotions, her secrets, her deepest pains into another man week after week, you may already be losing her and not even realize it. Here's why. Therapy is designed to create intimacy, confidential conversations, safe space, no judgment. That environment is powerful, especially for women who crave emotional release. And let's be brutally honest. How many men are trained to listen with the same patience, presence, and validation as a therapist? Not many. So what happens? She feels more understood in that room than she does at home. She starts comparing. Why can't my boyfriend listen like this? Why doesn't he get me the way my therapist does? And before you know it, the man she's supposed to be working through her issues with becomes the man she secretly leans on emotionally. Then there's Michael. He didn't see it coming. He's 47, a construction engineer. His girlfriend had been seeing a male therapist to work through some personal struggles. At first, Michael supported it. He even encouraged her, thinking it would help her feel more balanced and happier in the relationship. But slowly, something shifted. She started quoting her therapist in everyday conversations, repeating his advice as if it carried more weight than Michael's words ever could. Then came the subtle comparisons. He really understands how I think. Or, he just gets me in a way most people don't. Michael brushed it off at first, but it ate at him. When she had a rough day, she'd rush to book a session with her therapist instead of opening up to him. One evening, she admitted she felt closer to her therapist than to anyone else. That was the moment Michael realized the line between professional help and personal intimacy wasn't just being tested, it was breaking. Let's be clear. I'm not saying every therapist crosses the professional line. Many are ethical, but the risk lies not just in his intentions, it's in the bond itself. Emotional intimacy can form whether he wants it to or not. And if your woman already feels distant from you, therapy can accelerate that drift, because in her mind, the man who hears her tears, her fears, her private thoughts, becomes the man she feels closest to. That's a dangerous transfer of loyalty. So what's the strategy? First, encourage therapy, but steer it toward couples therapy. That way, the emotional investment is shared, not siphoned away. When the therapist hears both of you, the process strengthens the relationship instead of pulling it apart. Second, set boundaries. If her therapy sessions are leading to secrecy, like hidden topics, emotional walls, or comparisons to how you don't understand her, you need to address that directly. Ask, do you feel like you can only open up in therapy? Because if that's true, we need to fix how we connect. Third, pay attention to the transfer of intimacy. Is she starting to lean on therapy for validation instead of you? Is she more emotionally available before her sessions than after? Those are warning signs you cannot ignore. And here's the painful truth. If another man, therapist or not, becomes her primary emotional confidant, you're in trouble. Relationships die not when attraction fades, but when vulnerability shifts to someone outside the bond. Don't let that happen on your watch. Support her healing, yes, but never let yourself be replaced as the man she trusts most. The male therapist is dangerous not because he's unethical, but because he's positioned perfectly. He's the listener, the validator, the safe space. If you don't reclaim that role in your own relationship, you're signing up to be the outsider in your own love story. And trust me, you do not want to wake up one day realizing the man she trusts most was never you. By now, you've seen the pattern: the gym guy, the bartender, the CEO, the bestie, the therapist. Different faces, different roles, but all roads lead to the same weakness: emotional gaps and blurred boundaries. That's the common thread. Your woman doesn't drift because these men are better looking, richer, or smarter than you. She drifts because someone else slipped into the emotional space you stopped occupying. And here's the cruel irony. If you try to control her out of fear, you actually push her closer to them. Blind control backfires, always. So what's the real strategy? It's not surveillance. It's not jealousy. It's not playing detective on her phone. The smartest move is building emotional defense, not by caging her, but by becoming the man who's hardest to replace. That means strengthening your own presence, sharpening your awareness, and creating a bond she doesn't want to escape from in the first place. Let me tell you about George, 54, an insurance worker. His younger girlfriend had gotten close to a male coworker. Lots of lunches, inside jokes, late-night texts about projects. George felt the sting of jealousy, but instead of exploding or trying to ban the coworker, he made a different move. He sat down with her, laid out what he noticed without accusing her, and asked straight, "Are we losing our spark?" Then he went to work, not on the coworker, but on himself and their relationship. He started leveling up his health, investing in his career again, surprising her with dates that reignited their chemistry. He didn't beg, didn't accuse, didn't spiral. He upgraded. And you know what? The coworker faded back into irrelevance because George reclaimed the space that belonged to him. That's how you defend your relationship without losing your dignity. Here's the warning you need to hear. You cannot stop every threat. That's a losing game. There will always be gym guys, nightlife charmers, powerful executives, sympathetic besties, and therapists with time to listen. You can't lock her away from the world, but you can make yourself the man who holds her loyalty by choice, not by force. And that's where true security comes from. So what does this strategy look like in practice? First, communication. Not nagging, not accusations. Direct, transparent dialogue. Say what you see, say how it feels, and listen to her response. A woman who's invested will respond. A woman who's drifting will get defensive. Either way, you get clarity. Second, observation without paranoia. Pay attention to patterns. Time spent, energy shifts, sudden secrecy, but don't jump to conclusions. Watch with calm detachment. That's strength, not insecurity. Third, invest in your own value. Keep yourself attractive, not just physically, but mentally, socially, financially. When you grow, she feels the pull of your gravity. No other man can compete with the kind of presence that keeps evolving. And fourth, set boundaries. Not walls, not cages, boundaries. Make it clear what respect looks like in your relationship. If she crosses those lines, it's not about controlling her. It's about deciding if she still deserves access to you. Here's the ultimate truth. The most powerful defense isn't fear, it's strength. You can't be everywhere, watching everyone, but you can be the man who's so centered, so valuable, so irreplaceable, that the thought of losing you becomes the real risk she won't take. That's how you win, not by chasing threats, but by becoming the one she never wants to lose. So let's bring it all together. You've now seen the 5 archetypes of men who can slip into your relationship if you're not paying attention. The gym guy, the physical proximity, the bartender or DJ, the nightlife seduction, the wealthy businessman, the power and status pull, the male bestie, the emotional siphon, and the therapist, the professional confidant who can quietly become the most trusted man in her life. Different masks, same danger. They step into the space you left unguarded. And once emotional gaps open, opportunities appear. Once boundaries blur, loyalty shifts. That's the pattern you cannot ignore. But let me be clear. This is not about demonizing these men or their jobs. Not every trainer is hunting for your girlfriend. Not every bartender or CEO is scheming. Not every therapist is crossing the line. The real problem is never the profession. The real problem is when emotional gaps, unchecked boundaries, and neglected intimacy leave your relationship vulnerable. That's when another man has the chance to walk in and take what should have been yours to protect. And here's the hopeful part. You don't need to control the world to keep your relationship safe. You don't need to ban her from the gym, forbid her from going out, or stalk her phone like a detective. That path only weakens you. What you need is mastery. Not over her, but over yourself and the frame of your relationship. When you maintain your own value, when you communicate clearly, when you set boundaries without fear, you become the man who's hardest to replace. And that's the only real insurance policy you'll ever need. So remember this. Your power doesn't come from chasing threats. It comes from becoming the man she doesn't want to risk losing. That's emotional defense the smart way. That's how you stay in control, without chains, without paranoia, without begging. If this message hit you where it hurts, and you know it's the truth, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, drop a comment, and share this video with a man who needs to hear it. Because the truths I'm giving you are the ones no one else dares to say. And the more men who wake up, the stronger we all become.